Olá, tudo bem? Estamos aqui para fazer o nosso primeiro podcast para falar de IT4 e melhores práticas. Eu sou Emauri Gaspar, sou diretor de tecnologia e membro do Conselho de Administração da Central IT e Unicity. Estamos aqui com nossos convidados para falar sobre IT4 e melhores práticas. Para começar, Roman, can you introduce yourself?
I think I can, yes. Very happy to be here. My name is Roman Juravlev. I work at PeopleCert as a senior ITIL architect and have been doing it under different job titles for the last 7.5 years. So largely, if you don't like something about ITIL4, I am probably the one to blame. And if you do like something about ITIL4, there is a long list of people at the end of every publication who made it really great. Very happy to be here. Thank you for your invite.
Thank you for being here with us. So, Vinícius, pode introduzir você?
Eu sou Vinícius Gravito, arquiteto de soluções do Grupo Central IT. E vou conversar aqui com nosso amigo Roman. Roman, I'm Vini Gravito, as Vini, and I'm solution architect at Central IT Group. And thank you for coming and share with us your knowledge. Thank you.
My pleasure.
So we will start with the first question. So Roman, in my opinion, the value of a center of ITIL4 is the big advance of ITIL3. That's my opinion. I'd like to understand what you think. What's the big advance in ITIL4 compared with ITIL3?
I don't think I can pick just one thing about it, because I am biased. I know what we were trying to achieve. It's 5 years now since the first book of ITIL4 was released, so I know what we managed to achieve and what we could have done better. So on my top list would be, as you mentioned, the explicit focus on value. Probably, since I mentioned focus on value, since you mentioned focus on value, we can refer also to other principles. So the introduction of the guiding principles, technically it happened earlier with ITIL Practitioner version 3, but it wasn't that known, and ITIL4 is largely built on these same principles, and we were following them. Focus on value, progress iteratively with feedback, start where you are, and others. Another important thing, I believe, is the introduction of the service value chain. The idea that practices, previously known as processes, are not valuable in isolation. They should not be implemented or managed in isolation. That every time we use practices, we use them in a context, and this context is supported by multiple practices in a value stream flow. Adoption of the value stream management as an idea and introduction of the service value stream, I believe, is an important shift in the way of managing IT. And another thing which is a bit more technical, but for us architects it's important, the way the practices have been decoupled from the core publications. I know many people were not very happy about it because it's quite a change for them, but this allows us to keep updating the practice guides, and we updated 15 of them last year, and we just finished updating the rest 19 of them, and they will be published literally in a month or so. We made ITIL development more agile. So as the industry is developing, as there is a new wonderful way of managing changes, for instance, we don't need to introduce a new version of ITIL for that. We can just introduce a new version of practice for change enablement. I think in the rapidly changing world, it's a very important movement. And probably the last one, just because I have to stop, I can go on for a long time on this, the explicit movement from processes to practices, shift from processes to practices. It's not just the terminology. It's a highlight of the fact that processes on their own are not enough. If you want to manage something, let's say incidents, because they are always used as an example, it's not enough just to define a workflow. You have to define the competencies and the organizational structures and supply enough human resources and define the information flow and relevant supporting technology. And most likely your incident management, you will need to involve third parties partners and suppliers. So the concept of the 4 dimensions of service management, which is a fancy name for what we used to know as 4 types of resources, is important and more important when it's applied to the architecture of the practices, because each practice guide is structured around all 4 dimensions in a very uniformed way. I believe it's an important message. ITIL is not about processes. And managements in ITIL, all this incident, problem, change, you name it, management, they are not processes, they are practices, or if you like, organizational capabilities. That's the top 5 or 4, whatever was the number of the bullets I listed.
Perfect. Roman, how is ITIL4 work with agility?
It's agile. It uses the principles of agility. I mentioned some ITIL guiding principles: progress iteratively with feedback, collaborate and promote visibility, focus on value, start where you are. These all are principles that can be directly linked to the agility principles, to the Agile Manifesto, to the 3 ways of DevOps, depending on what you want to map them to. ITIL was updated to address the rise of agility in both software development and operations. And I truly believe that agility is one of the main responses to what we call VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So in order to survive in the VUCA world, we have to be agile. That applies both to ITIL as a product and to service management as the area where ITIL is applied. So we really tried to introduce it. And when you look at particular publications, in terms of the major books, High Velocity IT, for instance, addresses agility explicitly as one of the key principles of the high velocity. If you look at the practice guides, then you can look at change enablement or project management or software development and management practice guides, and they all are using the principles and tools and methods of agile with the capital A to make us all agile with the small a.
So ITIL4 can work with other agile frameworks?
Absolutely. ITIL4 can work with pretty much anything, because ITIL is not a religion. You are not supposed to implement ITIL or to follow ITIL blindly. ITIL is yet another tool set. And it's quite a comprehensive tool set, but there are tools that are either not there because there are better places for them, or they are there just in their basic form. So, for instance, I mentioned project management practice. There is a practice guide for project and program management. It's about 50 pages long. In our portfolio, we have Prince2, which is about 300 pages long and counting. So we provide the basic foundation in ITIL for the capability of managing projects. And we, what is probably more important, position this in the organizational context, why project management is important for an IT service provider. But if you want to become a pro in project management, ITIL is not enough. And we don't try to replace PMBOK or Prince2 or any other things. Similarly, for software development, there is a practice, but we don't want to replace with that practice guide the whole universe of software development, let alone the technical things that we are aware. We don't go there to in technology-specific solutions. But even general, we have, again, in PeopleCert portfolio, we have a whole collection of DevOps materials and training, and ITIL does not claim to be a replacement. But we do claim that they are a good match, and they are better together.
Perfect.
That's the idea.
Can I assume that when we are talking about the value streams and IT4 capabilities, can I assume that digital transformation or hyper automation, because I deliver the better experience, the better value for my end user, can I assume the IT4 is the main pipe, the organize, integrate with another technologies, and manage the deliver, the change, the requests, and the ITIL, be the great flow that integrate another technologies for deliver the better stream value for our end user, including the digital transformation. Can I assume that?
I think we can safely assume that, yes. That's what was our intention.
Oh, nice.
So one of the requirements when we were updating ITIL, creating ITIL4, was to address the need and the trend of the digital transformation. We define, I don't remember verbatim definition, but generally we define digital transformation in ITIL is as the use of digital technology to make business significantly different or to make a significantly different business. And by business, I don't necessarily mean commercial activities. It may be government, it may be non-commercial, non-profit. Doesn't matter. So something that we couldn't have achieved without technology, and we may be talking about creating a new digital business or transforming the existing business. Think of training during pandemic. Think of banking, private banking. Think of many civil services that can be fully or largely automated. And yes, in order to manage them effectively, you need to be good at management of technology and management of services. And ITIL helps you to combine these two important skills. So yes, I would say yes. And to the hyper-automation, the answer is the same. I would say we don't have a definition in ITIL. So I would define hyper-automation as the extensive use of technology or as a part of digital transformation.
Yeah.
So to me, it's hyper-automation is baked into digital transformation, into digital business.
And including the artificial intelligence and the all technologies that can support and provide the better experience for delivery.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's nice.
Including pretty much any type of technology from, I don't know, you think of cloud, blockchain, AI, and whatever will emerge tomorrow. Or if there is a way to use these technologies for the value of business, for creating value for the organization and for its customers and other stakeholders, ITIL is generally technology agnostic. Yeah. Although there are some exceptions. For instance, we have a publication on I call it How to Cook Cloud Properly. So it's a book addressed to organizations that are adopting cloud, and it guides them through their customer journey as cloud adopting organizations, because there is a lot of recommendations for how to deliver cloud services, manage cloud services, and less so on how to stay alive and not bankrupt if you are using cloud services.
And from your perspective, the ITIL and the practice for next 5 years that we are working to the more digital companies and practices involving our process inside the company. What's your opinion about the ITIL4 as pipe support our technologies for next 5 years?
I think what we badly need is a model or some relatable model which people will associate themselves with that would show how ITIL as we know it today and DevOps work together. We can reward and rework it into how product and service management work together, because currently, unfortunately, in many cases, product management is hugely associated with development, and product managers think that when they put something on the shelf, the value is created. Unfortunately, it's not the case. And then service management kicks in, and there is a huge disconnection between the two.
Yeah.
Between DevOps bubble and service management bubble, between product bubble and service bubble.
Yeah.
And now when PeopleCert has DevOps Institute among its assets, and we have the best minds of the two bubbles working together, I hope we will be able to bring them closer. I don't think we have to put them under the same brand or umbrella or say that DevOps is part of ITIL or vice versa. But we need to show how they work together effectively for the sake of business, rather than us and them mentality that is still largely cultivated within both communities. That's if we manage to do this in the next few years, I think we are really happy and successful.
Makes sense.
Roman, when I see the market, I think there are mesh of services. companies supplying service for other companies hire consuming service from others.
Yes.
It's services.
Services life. Services life.
Basically, all ITIL is adequate for this holistic vision. What is your opinion?
My opinion, again, I am biased, is yes, of course. You can start with foundation. You may remember there is one of the very first diagrams that everyone who goes to foundation training or sees on the slides. There are 4 organizations are shown as a sequential chain, but if the trainer is good, then the trainer explains that in fact they may be acting as service providers and consumers to each other and to others, and it's actually a multi-dimensional network or a mesh rather than a linear chain. And it's not only about one diagram and foundation. I think the main piece of ITIL, the key piece of ITIL that covers this multitasking of every organization. I truly believe that every organization on the planet is a service provider and a service consumer at the same time in many service relationships. So there is a book called Drive Stakeholder Value, the green one, my favorite, which leads the reader or the trainee at the training or whoever is interested through this, what I call service journey. In the book, it's called customer journey, but it's not very correct name in my mind. That's one of the things we could have done better. I would call it service journey because it's a journey of the 2 parties. The organization acting as a service provider and the organization acting as a service consumer, and they go together from original engagement to some negotiations, offer, agree, and then one of them delivers services, the other one consumes services, then they realize whether it was valuable or not, and then they may come back to some other steps, re-agree, renegotiate, divorce completely, on board, off board in terminology of that book. So we have a guidance on how to be a good service provider and a good service consumer. And if both parties speak the same language, the chance for success is rising. So I believe this is one of those very important additions to ITIL that ITIL4 brought in. I would like to acknowledge that there was a great team working on that one, and the lead editor, Christian Nissen from Denmark, is one of the brightest ITSM minds I've ever met. And I think we were very lucky to have him working on this book. I'm very proud of that one.
Okay, so from the training perspective and, for example, as solution architect, I needed to deliver the practices inside the customer and process and give administrative training. So actually we are administrative training by practices. So PeopleCert think about TIE, for example, we have a bundle, 6 process, incident, request, service catalog. Hey, you need to certify and get this certification for deliver the basic services or change and release for DevOps. How we work about the process using, including your sample about the best consumer and best services provided.
I think what we miss in the current offering is a clear role-based learning path. So many organizations are struggling to understand what would be the optimal training combination for a particular role. And this is something we are working on. I wouldn't call it a competence model, but it looks like competency model. It quacks and works as like competency model, so maybe it is. But we don't think in these terms about it. What we are thinking is the role-based helping resource, or it can be documented, can be an interactive resource on a website, that if my role is this, if my responsibilities are this, then the relevant training path for me would be this. We have an issue related to transition from ITIL version 3 to ITIL4, because people used to associate themselves with certain training blocks. And until we introduced recently the practice bundles, there was no good answer to the question like, I have been sending my specialists to the RCV or service transition training for the last 10 years. Where should I start sending them now? And the answer was some of them should go to CDS, some of them should go to DSV, some of them should go to the high velocity IT, and they will then come back and do something with what they will have learned, because there is no direct mapping. Now there is some sort of direct mapping in these bundles, the same practice sets or very similar practice sets as before. The reason we didn't introduce it earlier, this bundles like that, was that we knew from version 3 that people start institutionalizing these bundles. They create service transition departments, and then they introduce service the change, release, and deployment sections in the departments in the organizations. And instead of breaking the silos, they'll start building new silos. So we really have been avoiding creating functional groupings of the practices. And that bundles is the only exception. And that was a response to some explicit request from the market. But we insisted also on them being available individually so people could mix and match. So I think that some training routes are mapped to the typical roles and learning requirements.
Like a journey.
Yes, is something that we can add, and that would be helpful in the context of your question.
Thank you.
So, Ronald, I need to talk about hyper-automation. Our audience needs to understand more about that. So I'd like to understand more about hyper-automation in the context of ITIL4. What ITIL4 talk about, or hyper-automation, or not talk, or what do you think about?
Let's make sure that we are on the same page. May I ask you a question first? How would you define hyper-automation? How would you describe it?
So, in the context of Central IT, our idea is in one IT department just to have a dog and a manager. Okay, of course, we know it's not so possible because there are a lot of innovation, it's change technology, but talking about stability, okay, it's stable, on IT stable, that's our idea. It's incidents can be solved directly for the technology, requests direct to the technology.
They combine the hyper-automation in our market that we are trying to talk as, for example, use AI ops and OpenAI and use the technologies, artificial intelligence, machine learning, to understand the environment behavior and gather information from another departments and create value streams as workflow that start and finish automatically. It means hyper-automation for our departments and create a new value stream.
So it's hyper-automation of the actual service management rather than hyper-automation of some business that we support with our services. So I think I have an answer from the ITIL perspective. It's not explicitly described in ITIL, but I think that would be the ITIL answer if it was there. In a number of ITIL publications, we refer to a wonderful framework developed by Dave Snowden and his company Cognitive Edge. The framework is called Cynefin, C-Y-N-E F-I-N. Looks like a name of a medicine, but it's not. It's a sense-making framework which defines different heuristics for different complexity contexts. And in the context of hyper-automation, 10 years ago, I would tell you that we can automate what is in the clear or simple domain, where causation is clear, where everything is predictable, and we can just make a script and then make the script working automatically. And I would tell you 10 years ago that in the more complex domains, such as complicated and complex, let alone chaotic, we cannot automate the flow because we don't know where the flow should go. And we would need increasing amount of manual interaction as we go from clear situation to more complex situation. But since then, we have seen first, for instance, such things as, Chaos Monkey and various tools for testing and emulating complexity. Then we see the rise of generative AI and previously all the big data story. And generally, I would say that machines are becoming more and more capable of making sense of the situation based on the context rather than just follow the script. So in theory and in some early innovative practice, it is possible to significantly increase the number of, let's say, object value streams for incidents, for changes, for tests it's done, for deployment it's done. So think of CI/CD. But again, when we are in a problematic situation, then we have more complexity and less known components. But I believe that with the right access to the contextual data and with the right heuristics implemented via AI, it will be increasingly possible and increasingly demanded. I don't think we are there yet, largely, just because our data is a mess. And, well, when it comes to AI, then the common rule of garbage in, garbage out becomes garbage in amplified garbage out. But if we manage to tidy up our data, or AI manage to make sense of the messy data, which is a bit more probable, then yes, it's possible. And I think currently, to sum it up, the more predictable the flow is, think of request fulfillment, the easier it is to automate it with today's tools. The more unpredictable the flow is, think of revising a strategy. The higher capable tools we need. But the tools are growing, and they're growing surprisingly fast, amazingly.
Yeah, we know to make hyperautomation happen based on artificial intelligence, there are a lot of human intelligence before to make it happen.
Ideally, yes.
Yeah, a way better, like create better content for be used inside there. So some more question I haven't. No, that's it.
Well, it's been a pleasure to be here.
Yeah,
thank you very much. Amazing questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. Really appreciate it for coming, for your answers. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you from Central IT and Unicity, Emory.
So, Ronan, thank you for sharing your knowledge with us, with our audience. So, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.